And welcome back at CBTV's High School Football Playoff Show. We're at Dickey's Barbecue Pit, 10,008 South Point Parkway. Mike Neville along with George Kearns and David Robinson. And again, we thank Tony DeMarco, Riverbend head coach, for joining us on our first segment. We're taking a look at the Virginia High School League playoff picture, and right now we're moving to 5A North. And one of the matchups is going to be Patrick Henry Ashland taking on the top seed Massaponax. All Massaponax did last week in their first round matchup was score a school record 77 points. Yeah, that's getting the job done. And they scored on 11 of their 12 possessions, George. Patrick Henry Ashland, 8-3 on the season. Offensively, they might be able to move the ball, but boy, are they going to be able to stop that triple option offense of the Panthers?
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to stop that. They're going to try to move the ball. But Massaponax is so good, and it's hard to stop them. And it should be a good game, but I don't know if they can beat Massaponax, though.
The other matchup, George, in that 5A North is a pair of 9-2 teams, Potomac Falls and Albemarle. What do you think about that matchup?
That's one of the most intriguing matchups of 5A North. Potomac Falls is a good team. They like to run, they like to pass, and the same with Albemarle. So this matchup could go either way. And Potomac Falls, I know, is kind of looking forward to trying to face Massaponax because Massaponax beat them out last year. So you don't want to look one game ahead. You want to take care of business.
Potomac Falls beating Orange 28-7 in the opening round last week, and Albemarle with a 31-21 win over Falls Church. And then in the other brackets in the 5A North, and you like this matchup, George. We were talking before we started taping again. Broad Run 9-2 taking on Stonebridge 9-2. Stonebridge, of course, very familiar with playoff football.
Yeah, Stonebridge head coach Mickey Thompson and Broad Run's head coach used to be an assistant for Mickey Thompson over at Stonebridge, so it's always been a battle between them two. And Broad Run beat Stonebridge earlier this year 10-7, so every time they get together it's a battle, and it's not going to be disappointing this time.
And also North Stafford, the 10th seed, who pulled out a 44-21 win on the road at Patrick Henry Roanoke in the opening round. They will take on the second seeded, Brooke Point Blackhawks. The Blackhawks had no problem in ending Mountain View's season 47-21. North Stafford, by the way, we were talking, David, they got their quarterback, Jimmy Edwards. He was hurt in the regular season finale. He did play last week and played pretty well, too. He passed for 374 yards and 5 touchdowns. So if he can play at that level, they may be able to give Brooke Point a run.
Exactly, I believe so. And one thing also we need to look at is, how I've talked about the Commonwealth District. Look how many Commonwealth District teams are still in this thing. Yeah. You don't think they have a tough, 4 or 5, I guess? Of course, this game here, one of them had to lose, right. Mountain View and Brooke Point. And one thing about Massaponax and Patrick Henry Ashland, off the top of your head, who did Patrick Henry lose to, George?
They lost to Highland Springs 49-0.
Okay.
They lost to Douglas Freeman 14-7. One of the other ones.
Other than one bad loss, they really were close and everything.
Right. Yeah.
Also, Brooke Point, by the way, we mentioned, you heard me talking to Tony about run-pass balance. How's this? Damon Drew, their outstanding running back for Brooke Point, 114 yards on the ground, scored 3 touchdowns, and their quarterback, Brock Carnes, passed for 228 yards and 3 touchdowns. And that receiving core that they've got at Brooke Point, Trey Ross, 170 yards receiving with a touchdown, and Jamal Fisher, 135 yards receiving and a touchdown. So I want to tell you, it's a big task playing Brooke Point because they can do it again on the ground or through the air.
Mike, I'm telling you, the Commonwealth, I don't want to keep talking about the Commonwealth, but look at the athletes, and to think Massaponax hasn't lost a game in the Commonwealth District in 4 years.
That's incredible.
I mean, that's not, it isn't like Battlefield where you got 2 or 3 weak sisters. Everybody in there can beat you.
George, is there a chance that Brooke Point and Massaponax should meet in the regional final, do you think? Or do you think that one of them or both of them are going to get knocked off before we get to that stage?
I think we've got a good chance meeting Massaponax, in a good bracket, and so is Brooke Point. Stonebridge and Broad Run, the winner of that one, could have to face Brooke Point, and Potomac Falls or Albemarle could have to face Massaponax. But they got a good chance at meeting each other in the state semis, and one of them going to the state championship.
Should be an interesting bracket.
Now,
go ahead.
Now, where is that state going to be held for AAA? Is that in the Norfolk area?
Yeah, to be down to Hampton.
And the AA's where?
Williamsburg at William
and how
Mary.
about the single A?
That'll be at Salem Stadium.
Okay.
All right, let's take a look at the 5A South Conference, and you like this conference. There's a lot of really good records that are being shown by these teams. What did we say, George, 4 10-1 teams?
Yeah, 4 10-1 teams. Douglas Freeman, enough 4th seed at 10-1, will be facing Highland Springs at 10-1, and LC Bird at 10-1 will be taking on Hermitage 10-1.
Well, that you talk about a power-packed bracket. That certainly is it.
Yeah, any of those teams, could very much well go on. And LC Bird lost to Hermitage last year, so they're looking to try to get revenge against Hermitage for what happened last year in the playoffs.
And how about in the conference 11 and 12? I think. What do we got?
We got number 4 Indian River against number 1 Hampton, number 3 Norview against number 2 Salem Virginia Beach.
Now you look at the records. Indian River's sitting there at 7-4, Hampton 10-1, but that could be a closer game than the records would indicate, wouldn't it?
Yeah, very much. And Indian River knocked Hampton out of the playoffs last year, so Hampton's looking for revenge. And Hampton's a really good team this year, but they had a rough time against Warwick last week.
Yeah, that was kind of a surprise. I thought, again, we thought maybe like the Oscar Smith game we talked about, thought that might be a bigger discrepancy as far as the final score, but Warwick hung with them. And what about the Norview matchup? That's a 2 and a 3 seed.
Yeah, that's a 2 and a 3 seed. That could go either way. Norview is a really good team. The teams that they lost to Lake Taylor, and just really good teams. And like I said, the competition is just so much greater as it moves on.
Boy, it's a shame we were talking, David, that upper bracket, 4 10-1 teams, and they're going to have their seasons come to an end. It's just, it's unbelievable.
It's true, Mike, and maybe some teams come out of that would whip the rest of the schedule. But that's life. That's the way it goes.
Well, we see it in college basketball in the NCAA brackets.
Mm-hmm.
You have some weaker brackets and some stronger brackets. I dare to say that 5A South bracket might be one of the toughest in the entire state.
And the team I see right now in the 5A North is the LC Bird. They're always there. They have a good football team. They come out of that rough Richmond area, so I think they'll do fine. I might just go to the limb and say they might win it.
Okay, all right, there you go. Predictions from David Robinson, just what you were looking for. All right, we're going to take a break. We're at Dickey's Barbecue Pit with our CVTV High School Football Playoff Preview. Stay with us. We'll be back with more.